No? Okay. And when the people complained, it displeased the Lord, and the Lord heard it, and his anger was kindled, and the fire of the Lord burnt among them, and consumed them that were in the uttermost parts of the camp. And the people cried unto Moses, and when Moses prayed unto the Lord, the fire was quenched. Pause. Why did they cry out to Moses? Why don't they just cry out to God? Why, when the trouble comes in your life, do you cry out to man? Why don't we just cry out to God? When God is doing something and punishing or judging us, why do we cry out to man? As if man can somehow stop the plague. Why can't we just pray to God? Why is it that we're always going to man? And I'll explain why in verse number 3. And he called the name of the place Taberah, because the fire of the Lord burnt among them. And the mixed multitude that was among them fell a-lusting. Circle that word, those words, mixed multitude, if you would. If you're the kind of person that likes to mark the Bible, not destroy your Bible, circle mixed multitude. That was among them fell a-lusting. And the children of Israel also wept again and said, Who shall give us flesh to eat? We remember the fish, which we did eat in Egypt freely, the cucumbers and the melons and the leeks and the onions and the garlic, but now our soul is dried away. There is nothing at all besides this manna before our eyes. And the manna was as a coriander seed, and the color thereof as the color of bedlam. And the people went about and gathered it into mills, and ground it in mills, or beat it in a mortar, and baked it in pans, and made cakes of it, and the taste of it was as the taste of fresh oil. And when the dew fell upon the camp in the night, the manna fell upon it. Then Moses heard the people weep throughout their families, every man in the door of his tent, and the anger of the Lord was kindled greatly. Moses also was displeased. Wait, who is crying about the food? The families, but who was it at the door of the tent, the door of their houses? Moses. The men. The men were complaining about what was provided for them. Verse number 11. And Moses said unto the Lord, Wherefore hast thou afflicted thy servant? And wherefore have I not found favor in thy sight, that thou layest the burden of all this people upon me? Have I conceived all this people? Have I begotten them, that thou shouldest say unto me, Carry them in thy bosom, as a nursing father beareth the sucking child, unto the land which thou swearest unto their fathers? When should I have flesh to give all these people? For they weep unto me, saying, Give us flesh, that we may eat. I am not able to bear all these people alone, because it is too heavy for me. And if thou deal thus with thee, kill me, I pray. I pray thee, kill me. If I got to put up with this, Lord, kill me. Moses was the pastor. All right, it says, and if I have found favor in thy sight, and let me not see my wretchedness. So he stopped there in these verses, but I want to preach this morning, and it's going to be my best to get through it in this next 30 minutes, is voluntary dependence on human government. Voluntary dependence on human government. Pastor, I didn't see a thing talking about human government in that passage. Get back to the book. All right, we're going to get on to it this morning. So we're going to get to this thing, understand some things. First, let me give you some groundwork towards this. Let me also say this. It's okay that we have a little one running around. The door is locked, correct? Yes. I'm fine. If you're fine, let it go. It's great. We're safe. We're in a safe environment. Unless she starts licking fingers and putting them in electric sockets, she's perfectly fine. Let it go. Let's come to church to focus on church. Let's grow for ourselves today. All right? Can we do that? All right. The children of Israel had been living or had been enslaved. They had been both living and enslaved in Egypt for over 430 years. For over 430 years, the children of Israel, had been, or I should say the children of Israel, they had been actually in Egypt living and enslaved for 430 years. They were enslaved after the death of the king, who remembered Joseph and all that he did for Joseph before the famine. Go to Exodus chapter number 1. Exodus chapter number 1. Look what the Bible says here in verse number 6. Exodus chapter 1, verse 6. And Joseph died, and all of his brethren, and all that generation. And the generation of Israel were fruitful, and increased abundantly, and multiplied, and waxed exceeding mighty. And the land was filled with them. Now there arose up a new king over Egypt, who knew not Joseph. And he said unto his people, Behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and come to pass that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land. Therefore they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens, and they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew, and they were grieved because of the children of Israel. And the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor. I'm not sure what rigor is, but it doesn't sound like it's very fun. Rigor is harder. Okay? And they made their lives bitter with hard bondage in mortar and brick and in all manner of service in the field. And their service wherein they made them serve was with rigor. So here they are. They're going out there. They're enslaving them. They put them in slavery. By the way, it's interesting that they were in a country without being part of that country. They never ran for office. They never ran for any public office, any public servants. They never ran for Senate, Congress. They didn't try advancing themselves. They lived there. And that's all they did, was they lived there. They'd forgotten all that Joseph had done for Egypt, and they took it for naught, and they didn't know their history. And Egypt didn't know their history, and they started noticing these guys are getting increasing mightily and getting stronger, and they're afraid that when there's a civil war, they might go and side against the enemy. They borrowed from tomorrow's trouble that wasn't even there. But they had been enslaved, and they forgot all that Joseph did what he did for Egypt during the famine. The Bible shows us that going to Egypt was a faulty trend with the patriarchs. I say the patriarchs, I mean Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? They went to Egypt in the time of trouble, and the Bible tells us it was a faulty trend. Jacob and his sons went to Egypt in the time of famine. So now you have 4 generations of people going to Egypt in the time of trouble. The Bible says in Isaiah chapter 31, verses 1 and 3, Woe to them that go down to Egypt for help, and stay on horses, and trust in chariots, because they are many, and in horsemen, because they are very strong. But look not unto the Holy One of Israel, neither seek the Lord. Verse number 3, Now the Egyptians are men, and not God, and their horses flesh, and not spirit. When the Lord shall stretch out his hand, both he that helpeth shall fall, and he that is holpen shall fall down, and they shall all fail together. He says, don't go down to Egypt for the time of help. Don't go down there. Interestingly enough, Egypt is a type of the world, right? So we understand that. But God wants us, his people, to be separate from the world. We're supposed to be holiness unto the Lord. We shouldn't go down to Egypt and try taking Egyptian ways and put them into our lives. We shouldn't go to the world and take worldly trends and worldly philosophies and worldly ideologies and put them into the church. It don't mix. It's strange fire, and God hates it. God wants us to be pure. God wants us to worship him his way. God wants us to be set apart. He doesn't want us to be American. He doesn't want us to be Chinese. He doesn't want us to be Russian. He doesn't want us to be Peruvian. He doesn't want us to be Guatemalan. He doesn't want us to be Mexican. He doesn't want us to be Irish. He wants us to be Christian. That's what God wants us as God's people, is for us to be Christians, children of the kingdom of heaven. And so far too often we get so wrapped up with things around us that we get so involved with politics. How many Christians got involved with politics this past year? Pardon me, but I want a political rant. Everybody got on board. Donald Trump we got to get Donald Trump in there. We're going to lose America if we get Joe Biden in there. Really? Not even 2 weeks ago during CPAC, or whatever the conference was, here comes all these, conservative politicians, and they're having a big rally, and they're starting to get a platform to see who they're going to run, and they're going to try to overthrow the Republican Party and bring about a new party. And here they come. They bring in Donald Trump. And in with Donald Trump comes a brazen or a golden, it was a brazen image of Donald Trump. And they wheeled it in. Well, why are we bringing idols?
Right.
Really? We're bringing an idol in there? Joe Biden's a joke. Joe Biden's a joke. By the way, we're in trouble if Joe Biden never dies. You got Kamala Harris, who cannot, from what I understand, she cannot be president because she's not naturally born in the United States. From what I understand, that's what I was told, at least. Could be wrong. If she goes out and she can't run, Nancy Pelosi's president. I don't know for sure. I don't know for sure if that's about Kamala Harris. And that's this. If that's true, that's where we're going. Okay, and I don't really care because God's in control of the world, right? God's in control of this thing. But on the other side, we had Trump again for another 4 years. I said no to Trump beforehand. I said no to Obama. I said no to Bush. I'm like, it's not about a political head. We need to have someone in the White House who's going to fear God. Mm-hmm. But guess what? They can't. They're not going to fear God if they're in the White House. Right. Because they got to that office by proving that they don't care about the things of God. Mm-hmm. But we ought not get tied in with politics. We ought not get tied in with the things of the world. I know of a preacher who stopped being a preacher. He stopped being a pastor. He resigned the church, and he's running for governor of a state. What a waste. Charles Spurgeon, I know he's a heretic burning in hell, but Charles Spurgeon said this: if God called you to be a preacher, don't stoop to be a king. I'll take that. That's good advice, right? Don't take the world and incorporate it to the church. Don't take the world's philosophy and try to bring it to our family's home. It don't work. I'm not talking about Disney. I'm not talking about TV. I'm talking about worldly philosophies. Right? I'm talking about things in our own personal lives. Don't take the world and incorporate it to our family and expect it to turn out godly. That's not how it's going to be. Being under force, God wanted his people to be separate from the world. Being under forced bondage, they were dependent on Egypt for food. I mean, let's keep on going with my notes. They were dependent on Egypt for food, clothing, shelter, and defense. They were the property of their captors. By the way, all the things that the government is trying to force and take away from us today are our shelter, our defense, our health, our food. They have their hands in all those things, even our shelter, even our health. I mean, you find in Exodus chapter 2, you find a whole reform of wiping out kids under the age of 2. Suddenly put the beads down, pay attention. Wiping out the whole anybody, any men who are born of the children of Israel, they're supposed to be put to death. Of the Hebrews, they're supposed to be put to death. Let's control the masses. Let's have Planned Parenthood. Let's can I say that? YouTube strike. We're gonna go through this. Let's go and limit how many kids they have. And under forced bondage, they did that. They were the property of their captors. I do not condone slavery. I don't put it out. I do not condone slavery at all. However, I want to point out the fact that it wasn't always the Uncle Tom's Cabin sort of slavery. Yes, they were under taskmasters. Yes, they were served with rigor. But it wasn't all about Uncle Tom's Cabin where they were just mistreated, killed off for the sake of killing off. Slaves in the South were treated better than factory workers in the North. True thing on that one for a while. By the way, slavery existed long before the 1700s. Mm-hmm. Slavery existed long before America. Okay? Slaves cost money. They were investments. No reasonable man would torture his investments. No reasonable man goes out there and just tears up his workhorses. No, you go to the Amish. They're pulling out, even if a 3-year-old horse has been behind the plow for a couple of years, no Amish person goes out there and abuses horses. It's their means to a business. It's a means to their end. It's kind of like if you said, oh, I got a brand new car. I'm going to go with my 2021 Chevy, whatever, and I'm going to go drive it and go to a demolition derby. Nobody with a reasonable mind does that. Nobody does that with a reasonable mind, right? No one would reasonably go and harm their investments. Okay, so I'm not condoning slavery, but let's put into understanding that these people were doing the tasks. These people were serving with rigor. These people were under forced bondage. Yes, but they were also being taken care of. They were given provision. They were given food. They were given things. They were given these things. It wasn't like poor poverty, starving them to go and eat each other in order to stay alive. they were taken care of. It was their investments. However, when their captivity was ended, God delivered them into freedom and to liberty, that they found themselves looking back to Egypt as dependents and not as being delivered. Here in this passage, we find them looking back to Egypt, saying, oh, I wish we went back to Egypt. Back in Egypt, we had food. Back in Egypt, we had fish, we had leeks, we had garlics, we had cucumbers, we had onions, we had melons. Back in Egypt, I remember back in Egypt, we had all these different things. Where now we're in the wilderness and we have nothing. Go to Exodus chapter number 12. Exodus chapter number 12. By the way, what you're stupid to think about is they did have food. They had manna. They had manna from heaven. But to a fleshly minded person, the blessings of God are not good enough. Ever. To a fleshly person, to a fleshly minded, carnal person, the blessings of God are never enough. They always have to have something the world has to offer. Exodus chapter number 12, verse number 36. Check this out. Look at verse number 31. And he called for Moses, this is Pharaoh, and Aaron by night, and said, rise up and get you forth from among my people, both ye, the children of Israel, and go and serve the Lord as ye have said. And take your, what? Flocks and your herds, as ye have said, and be gone. And bless me so. You'll bless me by leaving. Some people are blessing by coming. Some people are blessing by leaving. Take your flocks, take your herds, take your kids, take your family, take all that you have and get out. Have a good day. Thanks for shopping. Verse number 33. And the Egyptians were urgent upon the people that they might send them out of the land in haste, for they said, we be all dead men. And the people took their dough before it was leavened, and kneading troughs being bound up in their clothes and upon their shoulders. And the children of Israel did according to the word of Moses, and they borrowed the Egyptians jewels of silver and jewels of gold and raiment. And the Lord gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. So they lent unto them such things as they required, and they spoiled the Egyptians. They took everything they had from the Egyptians. They took food, they took raiment, they took clothing. They took gifts, they took gold, they took everything they could take, they took them with them. And they spoiled Egypt on the way out. That's pretty awesome. They had all this provision. Oh, we have no food. Don't you have flocks? Oh, we have no food. Don't you have herds? Oh, I've got no food. Don't you have manna? Oh, we have no food. Don't you have kneading troughs? Don't you have bread? Don't you have unleavened bread? Don't you have yeast? Don't you have the things you took from Egypt? Don't you have these things? Oh, we're all going to die. There's no food out here. We're going to die. But what happened was they're looking back at Egypt, at all the things that was provided for them, that was given to them, that was allotted to them, and they lived on the government rather than on God. It's not a far stretch of imagination to read this. We can actually read it from Scripture. Because when they come and they hear they have no food, they're saying, hey, they come to Moses, who is the leader, who is the government, and they say, give us food to eat. Well, you've got manna. Go get the manna that's all across the floor, all across the ground. Go get that. Oh, you don't understand. I don't have any food. Really? The Bible says that Moses heard the crying and complaints of the men in their tents about provision. Whose job is it to provide for the family members? The fathers, the husbands. It's not the government's job to provide for the family. It's not the government's job to give you stimulus checks. Where is that money coming from? How can a nation in debt how can a nation that's trillions of dollars in debt have enough money to give to its citizens? If we're in debt, we owe. If we have all that surplus, pay off our debt. $1.9 trillion. Massive, massive money. Where is it coming from? It's going to come from our future generation. That's where it's going to come from. Obamacare. Oh, we'll pay for it. Wait till 2035 comes around. You'll see where it's coming from. Guess what, Elijah? The free health care we get today, guess where it's coming from? Your pocket. Congratulations. Long live Obama.
I don't even have that much money.
The children of Israel didn't like what they had was provided them, and they wanted more. They longed for the government to provide for them. They were freed, but they were not free. Go to Galatians chapter 5. They were freed, but they weren't free. You can be freed from going to hell, but you cannot be, but it doesn't mean you're free from your sin. What I mean by that is, well, Galatians chapter 5 says it perfectly. There's things in our life that we can be freed from the consequence. We don't have to go to hell. Our sin, we don't have to go to hell for our sin. But it doesn't mean that we're going to be freed from our sin, that we never want to sin again. That's why Paul said he was sold under sin. That's what he said. He's being sold under sin. Look at chapter 5, verse 1. Galatians 5, verse 1. Stand fast, therefore. Fast doesn't mean quick. It doesn't mean like you're faster than the next person. Stand fast means you're sure, right? Stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherewith Christ had made us free, and be not entangled again with the yoke of bondage. Don't be free and then go back into bondage. And that's exactly what we find in the children of Israel. Oh, that we were back. Oh, we have nothing to eat. Even before that, we have nothing to eat. We're going to starve. And then God gave them manna. Oh, we have nothing to eat. We're going to go back to Egypt. Let us make captains to go back into Egypt. Why? Why do you want to go back into Egypt? Oh, this is great fun. They just literally got out of Egypt and they're constantly going back into captivity. This is not a one-time instance. This is a constant theme with the children of Israel. They're on their one day out. They're literally just left Egypt. They're going through. They get trapped by the Red Sea, and Pharaoh's mad and starts coming. Someone's got to do our work. Someone's got to do the dirty work. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. They started pressing Pharaoh first, so I'm going to go back and get him. Now they're trapped between Pharaoh and the Red Sea, and they start murmuring, we should go back to Egypt. We should say, hey, you know what, we're sorry. We're all going to go back into Egypt, go back under forced bondage. We're all going to go back under voluntary dependence on the government for our safety. We're all going to go back to voluntary dependence on the government for our food. We're all going to go back to voluntary dependence of the government for our health care. We're all going to go back into voluntary dependence of the government for our freedoms. Hey, if everybody just goes ahead and follows the rules for a little bit longer and wears masks and gets the shots and gets what's the word I'm looking for? Not immunizations. What's the word I'm looking for? Vaccinations, like a bunch of dogs. If you go ahead and get this vaccination, the rabies vaccine, you're going to get this vaccination, then maybe on the day that our country celebrates independence from tyranny, maybe we can get together in small groups in our backyard with masks on. Maybe. Yeah. Just maybe. Really? Now we're depending on the government for our freedoms? We're dependent on our government for our protection? We're dependent on the government? Let me tell you something. Stop being American and start being Christian.
Amen.
Stop leaning on America as being some God-blessed nation and start getting back to serving God and realizing this world is not our home. We're just passing through. We're strangers, we're pilgrims, and this country has got nothing to offer us. And it's got nothing to offer us compared to what God has to offer us. Mm-hmm. But the children of Israel forced themselves, and they longed to go back to Egypt. Every time trouble came, and they found themselves in trouble and peril, they wanted to go back to Egypt for defense. They wanted to go back to bondage. They wanted to go back to government reliance. Go to Romans chapter 6. Romans chapter 6. Sydney, pay attention. Stop doing mommy's hair. Stop fidgeting. The children of Israel became dependent on Egypt to the point that they wanted to go back, drawing back into perdition. These were the mixed multitude we find about, that we read their numbers, the mixed multitude that went a-lusting. This is the mixed multitude. These are the people that stirred them up. They weren't 100% children of Israel, but they were tired of being under government. They wanted to see what else was new. They wanted to see what else they could get involved with. They were passive. They were nominal. And they're the first ones that went a-whoring after other gods. The Bible says they went a-whoring, they went a-lusting after other gods. They went after the different things. Well, I'm not super happy with the United States government. Sorry, with the Egyptian. Sorry. I'm not exactly 100% happy with the Egyptian government and how it's going on. We're not enslaved, but we're just kind of on our way out. We're not very happy with what's going on. So we're going to go ahead and leave with you. We're not on your side, but we're just coming along with you. We're not with you, but we're with you. We're just kind of tagging along. And they always caused all the trouble. They're always going after whoring. They're always going a-lusting. And they caused the children of Israel to murmur. They're goats, and they always follow along. You know sheep follow goats. Did you know that? Sheep follow goats. That's why you separate sheep from goats. That's why. Chapter 6, we're going to read the whole chapter, kind of brush through here, so bear with me. When I say a verse, I'm referring to Romans chapter 6 right now, okay? What shall we say then? Shall we continue in sin that grace may abound? God forbid. How shall we that are dead to sin live any longer therein? If we're set free from sin, why do we continue in sin? Because it's our old government. It's what we're used to doing, our flesh. If we abide by the flesh gives us the answer to say, does it not? Doesn't the flesh give us words to say? Yeah, someone cuts you off in traffic. Well, God bless you! That's not what you're thinking. That waitress messes up our table. That was not cool at all. And we're just, we took it for so long, we're trying to hold it in, but after a while, it's like, dude, you're messing up. Like, really? And I remember, you see, let's just like, and I'm like, okay, time out. How can you rectify the situation? You're telling us the problem, rectify the situation. Well, the best we can do is put you at 7-4. That's not what we asked for, but if that's the best you can do, give it to us. And then they put us at a bigger table. And I was like, flesh, but how quick are we to resign to the flesh? Someone makes us mad. Our wife or our husband says something and does something. Our kids do something or say something. And the first thing we want to do is act in the flesh. Whoa, where'd that come from? Where'd it come from? It came from our flesh. Once comes wars and fightings among you, come they not from our flesh, from our lusts? You have not, because you ask not, right? May be consumed upon your lusts. You kill, steal, and destroy. Why? Because it's not of faith, right? So we are so quick to depend on our flesh. But before we go and criticize ourselves, it's the old man within us. And Paul said, "O wretched man that I am." Paul said in the first person, "O wretched man that I am." He says, the things that I want to do, I find myself doing. The things that I don't want to do, I find myself doing. But if we have the choice, if we're set free from sin, why do we willfully allow that to govern over us? Why do we willfully abide in sin? Keep on going, verse number 3. Know ye not that as so many of us were baptized into Jesus Christ, were baptized into his death? Therefore we are buried with him by baptism into death, and that like as Christ was was raised up from the dead by the glory of the Father, even so we should also walk in newness of life. Not talking about water baptism here. It's talking about being baptized in Christ's death. That we in Christ Jesus were crucified. Christ in us lives. Galatians chapter 2, verse 20. Verse number 6. Knowing this, that our old man is crucified with him. There goes our husband. No. Our old man is our flesh, our sin nature, right? Our flesh is crucified with him, that the body of sin may be destroyed, that henceforth we should not, what? Serve sin. Be under bondage, be under slave by sin. We don't have to. Verse number 7. He that is dead is freed from sin. Now, if we be dead with Christ, we believe that we should also reign with him, right? Knowing that Christ, being raised from the dead, dieth no more, death hath no more dominion over him. If death has got no more dominion over Christ, death has no more dominion over me. Guess what else has no more dominion over me? Sin. Unless I willfully go back to that spiritual form of government. I'm made free. I don't have to go back. But how many of us, we go through uncertainty, we're in the Christian life, we're struggling, we're going through the Christian life, something comes up, and it doesn't drive us to our knees in prayer, it drives us to our knees, crying at the door of our tent, asking God, why, God, why? How could you let this happen to me? Oh, I wish I was back in the world. Back when I was serving God, I didn't have these problems. Back when I was trying to live for the Lord and put God first, I didn't have, before this took place, when I was serving the flesh, I didn't have these problems. Yeah, we did. We just didn't realize it. Time and chance have come upon all, as the old saying goes. But in all this whole verse, this whole chapter, look at verse number 15. What then? Shall we sin because we are not under the law, but under grace? God forbid. So because we're made free, can we just go back and live in Egypt again as not in bondage, but just leave it? Look, I'm not saying, hey, Moses, I'm not saying we should go back and be back under slavery. I'm just saying we should just go back to Egypt. Don't let us back there and be neighbors again. I mean, I'm not saying go back and, serve with rigor. I don't want to go back and serve with rigor anymore. That causes rigor mortis. I don't want to cause that. I don't want to go back into that. All I want to do is I want to go back and just go back where I can get fish and leeks and watermelons and and onions and cucumbers. I just want to go back there. I'm not saying I have to go back there and serve under forced bondage. I'm just saying, can I just go back to Egypt? That's how they ended in Egypt to begin with, just go down there for the food principles. And then the famine hit worldwide. It hit all around the area. That's what they went to Egypt originally. And they got entangled again, but they got snared up. Well, that'll never happen to me, really, because that's kind of what happened to Lot. I'm out here in the wilderness, seeing nothing but desert. He looks up and sees the well-watered plains. And he pitches his tent towards the well-watered plains. And then he moves, and then he gets kidnapped, and instead of getting away from Sodom, he goes a little further towards Sodom. And then he becomes sitting at the seat, at one of the gates, as one of the leaders of Sodom, sitting at the gates, being one of the vexing his righteous soul daily by their deeds. And yet the Bible called him just. His wife, we joked about this past week, but his wife, she was a pillar in the community.
Huh.
I mean, she was just right there, She was a stand-up kind of woman. But she got stuck back there because she didn't want to leave the Sodom and Gomorrah. She didn't want to leave that environment. I'm not trying to be one of them. I just want to go down there where all the food and all the benefits. I'm not saying I have to be in the world. I know we have to be in the world, but not of the world. You know what I'm saying? We have to dabble. We have to be in sin, but not be of sin. You know what I'm saying? Well, no one's perfect. But I got to take the government and let the government control us a little bit. We have to abide by the government rules. I'm not saying be total anarchists. I'm saying we should take the health care. We should go ahead and get the vaccinations. We should go ahead and live on the government because after all, it's there. We might as well. Why not? And that's exactly what happens when we start pitching our tent towards Sodom. And when we start pitching our tent spiritually towards the world into the flesh, that's exactly what happens. We need to change our minds. Change the focus of the direction where it's coming from. God has no pleasure in the people that draw back. Hebrews chapter 10, God says, I have no pleasure in them that draw back to perdition. Those that have been set free, they start following the Lord, mixed multitude, they start following the Lord, and then they're like, no longer. I'm not saying they got saved and they started serving God and they went back into the world and not saved anymore. That's not what we're talking about. Christ is drawing a parallel, the Bible is drawing a parallel to the mixed multitude that came out of Egypt, but were never of the children of Israel. That came out of Egypt, they want to tag along, they see something supernatural, but yet they want them to go back. God has no pleasure in the mixed multitude. God has got no pleasure in the mixed multitude. In our hearts and our minds, God's got no interest. God's got no pleasure in those that are double-minded. Well, I serve God on Sundays, but Monday through Saturday, it's all whatever I want to do. God's not satisfied with that. God's not pleased with that. Today we see a lot of the same government dependence. Welfare. 59 million Americans are on welfare. I did this research myself. I went to the internet. And according to Abraham Lincoln, we can trust everything we see on the internet. But welfare, 59 million Americans are on some form of some kind of welfare from the government. Healthcare, government regulated. Stimulus package. People are making decisions on their future based on the stimulus package. Peace of mind. This past week, after Biden gave his talk, what was it, Thursday or Wednesday or Thursday, whatever it was, this hashtag was going around everywhere. Hashtag Biden calm. Did anyone read that before? Did anyone see that? Hashtag Biden calm. We want peace of mind that the government can give. The government giving peace of mind? Yeah, Biden calm. It's called hypnotism. Congratulations to all being hypnotized. He's so wonderful. He's so great. I have never found anything comforting of listening to someone with Alzheimer's. It's sad. It's troubling. It's scary. My wife worked at a place where they always had people who had mental illnesses would have sundowners, and when the sun went down, their attitude changed. They were completely different. They had to have supernatural strength that was unbelievably. One lady? She would go completely crazy. Was it a guy or a lady? Give me a 50-50 chance. Help me out here. She would literally come completely crazy and flip out. Supernatural strength, acting all kinds of weird. The sweetest, timid kind of people turn into complete flip of the switch. It's not their bipolar, it's sundowners. Their mind literally captivated them. Defense. We're going to go to the government for help. We don't need guns. We don't need ammo. And I'm not going saying patriotism, go get bundles. I'm not saying go buy AK-47 with your stimulus package. That would be kind of funny. What I am saying is we go to the government for defense. Well, the Lord is our defense. He is our shield. He is our buckler. He is our strong tower. He is the one who's going to protect us. But so many times we go to the government for defense. The murmuring, complaining at provisions and providence of God is what God said tempted him in 1 Corinthians chapter 10. We get so caught up in our flesh at being driven by the flesh. The Bible says, make not provisions for the flesh to fulfill the lust thereof. Romans 13. We get so trapped up with providing a room or occasion for our flesh. And it's what we fall back as our default setting. As Christians, our default setting isn't to be disobedient. Our default setting isn't supposed to be fleshly. Our default setting is supposed to be spirit-filled. But it tells us our mindset. It tells us our mindset. If we choose to go back to Egypt every time a problem arises in our Christian life, God's not pleased with that. We've got to get past letting the flesh dictate and determine how we govern our lives. And as Christians, we ought not let the current country we're living in dictate how we serve God. Well, you can go to church if only, social distancing and mask. And don't sing out. Don't sing out. Well, if we start obeying that rule, what are they going to do when they come out and say, okay, well, you can't preach against certain sins? Mm-hmm. Well, you can't preach in the name of Jesus anymore. Really? So the government's going to give me permission to worship God? I worship God freely out of the sincerity of my own heart, not by the government's permission. But that's what happens when we become so dependent on the good old U.S. of A. When we willfully, it's not that we're being forced under bondage. There's difference it's different if you're in a communistic country that's strict government, that kills off babies, that has unreasonable expenditures, eminent domain, taking your property rights, forcing you to take vaccinations, forcing you to take health care. I'm not talking about socialist nations like China. Whoops. It's kind of like America. We're not talking about those kind of nations. We're talking about anything where it says, well, you can't worship God. Go to Islamic countries, right? Go to nations where it's against the law. China, where it's against the law to worship God. North Korea, South Korea, what's a bad one? North Korea, where you can't go and worship God freely. Go there. Go to Iran. Go to Israel. Oops. Go where you can't worship God freely. And you'll find Christians are not interested at worshiping the government. They're trying to worship God. And they're being forced. It's involuntary dependence on the government. But us sheeple in America, the good old God bless USA, God bless America, we're so willing to willfully, voluntarily become dependent on the government and not on God. Where men are standing in their tents. This does not spell out 2020. Men are standing in their tents. Oh, I don't have a job. They laid me off. Give me money. I can make more money staying at home than I can go to work. Well, guess what? It's not about how much money you make. It's about the fact that the God says if you're not willing to work, neither should you eat. Mm-hmm. So go get a job. Go get 2 jobs if you have to. But if woe be to me, the provider of my house, provider of my home, it's up to me to take care of my family if I'm out there begging on the streets, asking for a handout instead of going and get a job. The men were crying in their tents. At Moses, at the government, not to God, but the government. Give me for my family. I don't have anything for my family. Men in their tents, go get a job. Go make your income. Go hunting. Go on a hunting trip and go find some food. Take the riches that you got from Egypt from working in the world. Go and get that and go buy some towns. It wasn't like they're in the middle of nowhere, like just tumbleweed and just cactuses and sand everywhere and nothing else. There were cities round about. It wasn't like they're in the middle of a nowhere desert. They had cities round about them. There were other nations round about them. But they were in the wilderness, and the fact that they had no dwelling place of their own. They lived in tents, traveling from point A to point B. And they had all this stuff all the way around them, but they were so dependent on Egypt for their rights. So dependent on Egypt for their food. So dependent on Egypt to take care of their families. So dependent on Egypt to educate their children. And God had to rewrite the whole script. No. Parents, your job is to train your children. Parents, your job is to speak of me when you walk in the way. When the lies down, the rises up. Your job is to teach your children how to read and write. Your job is to teach your children what's right and wrong. Your children is to teach them what's socially correct and what's incorrect. Don't pass them off on the school system. There is no school system. Stop trusting the government and trust God. And that's what we find today. Does it not? Don't become voluntarily dependent on the government. And if you're dependent on the government, break free. Leave Egypt. Break free and learn to depend on God. Let's pray. Brother Aaron, if you would lead us in prayer.